Amanda Hayes stared at the glowing screen in front of her as numbers and codes scrolled past her tired eyes. She had been working for 18 hours straight in the research lab aboard the UES Horizon, and her coffee had gone cold hours ago. The ship moved quietly through space while she worked on the most important project of her life. The neural firewall protocol was almost ready. 3 years of work had led to this moment, and Amanda knew that everything depended on getting it right. The war against the Zephyrian Empire had been going badly for humanity, and their alien enemies had a terrible weapon that no one could fight against. The Zephyrians could get inside human minds and take control of them. They turned captured soldiers into weapons against their own people. Entire colonies had fallen when the defenders suddenly turned their guns on each other. The alien mind control was perfect and unstoppable. Until now, Amanda believed her firewall could protect human minds from alien invasion. The technology used special implants that would create a barrier around human thoughts. No alien force could break through it, at least that was the theory. But theories meant nothing without testing, and Amanda knew she would have to be the first test subject. Captain Ryan Brooks had argued with her about it for weeks. He stood behind her now, watching the final preparations with worry written across his face. Ryan was a good captain and an even better friend, but he did not understand the science like Amanda did. Dr. Kevin Martinez worked at the station next to Amanda, checking and double-checking every line of code. Kevin had been her research partner since the beginning of the project, and she trusted his work completely. He was the only other person who truly understood what they were trying to build. The lab door opened with a soft hiss, and Lieutenant Grace Foster walked in carrying a steaming cup of coffee. Grace had been assigned as Amanda's security escort 6 months ago, and they had become close friends. The lieutenant was tough and smart, exactly the kind of person you wanted watching your back during a war. Grace set the coffee down next to Amanda and smiled. "You need to drink something hot, or you will fall over," she said with concern in her voice. "When was the last time you ate real food?" Amanda picked up the coffee and took a grateful sip. "Food can wait," she replied. "We are too close to stop now. The firewall is almost ready for testing." Kevin looked up from his screen with excitement. In his eyes, "All the simulations are perfect," he announced. "The firewall blocks every type of Zephyrian mental attack we have on record. It should work perfectly in real conditions." Captain Brooks crossed his arms and frowned. "Should work is not good enough when we are talking about your brain, Amanda. What if something goes wrong? What if the aliens have new tricks we do not know about?" Amanda turned in her chair to face the captain. "Ryan, we have been fighting this war for 5 years, and we are losing. Every day more colonies fall to Zephyrian mind control. If we do not test this firewall soon, there might not be any free humans left to protect." The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. Everyone on the ship knew how desperate their situation had become. The Zephyrian Empire was winning the war not through superior weapons or numbers, but through their ability to turn humans against each other. Grace moved closer to Amanda's workstation. "The captain is right to worry," she said quietly. "But Amanda is also right about the urgency. We cannot wait any longer." Amanda nodded and turned back to her screen. "The implant procedure will take about 2 hours, she explained. "Once the neural interface is in place, we can activate the firewall and run controlled tests. Kevin will monitor everything from the outside, and we have emergency shutdown procedures if anything goes wrong." Dr. Martinez saved his work and stood up. "The surgical bay is ready," he announced. "I have triple-checked all the equipment. The implant should integrate perfectly with your existing neural pathways." Amanda finished her coffee and stood up as well. Her legs felt shaky from sitting for so long, but her mind was clear and focused. This was the moment she had been working toward for 3 years, and she was ready. Captain Brooks followed them toward the surgical bay. "I still think this is too dangerous," he said. "We should find another volunteer, someone who is not essential to the project." "There is no one else," Amanda replied firmly. "I designed this system, and I know it better than anyone. If something goes wrong during the test, I am the only person who might be able to fix it quickly." The surgical bay was small but well equipped. Kevin began preparing the neural implant while Amanda changed into surgical clothes. The tiny device looked harmless enough, but it contained years of research and humanity's best hope for survival. Grace helped Amanda onto the surgical table and squeezed her hand gently. "You are the bravest person I know," she said with a smile. "This firewall is going to save everyone." Dr. Martinez approached with the implant ready for insertion. "The procedure is completely automated," he explained to Captain Brooks. "The surgical robot will place the device with perfect precision. There is almost no risk of physical complications." Amanda closed her eyes as the anesthesia began to take effect. Her last conscious thought was about all the people who were counting on her success. Families on distant colonies, soldiers fighting impossible battles, children who deserved to grow up free from alien mind control. When she woke up 2 hours later, the implant was in place and functioning perfectly. Kevin showed her the readouts on his screen, and everything looked exactly as they had predicted. The neural firewall protocol was active and ready for testing. "How do you feel?" Grace asked with concern. Amanda sat up slowly and took inventory of her thoughts and sensations. "Normal," she said with relief. "Actually, I feel better than normal. My thinking seems clearer somehow." Captain Brooks relaxed slightly. "That is a good sign. When can we begin the actual testing?" Kevin checked his equipment one more time. "We can start with basic simulations immediately," he said. "I will create artificial Zephyrian mental attacks and see how the firewall responds." For the next hour, they ran test after test. The firewall blocked every simulated attack perfectly, just as the computer models had predicted. Amanda felt the alien mental probes hitting her defenses and bouncing off harmlessly. The technology was working, but none of them knew that they were being watched. Lieutenant Grace Foster touched a hidden device behind her ear and sent a silent signal across space to the Zephyrian fleet waiting in the darkness between stars. The real test was about to begin, and Amanda's firewall would face an enemy that knew exactly how it worked. Amanda woke up in darkness with her head pounding like someone had hit her with a hammer. The last thing she remembered was Grace bringing her coffee in the lab, and then everything had gone black. Now she lay on a cold metal floor in what looked like a prison cell. The walls around her were made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols were carved into the surface, glowing with a faint blue light that hurt her eyes. This was definitely not the UES horizon. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy and wrong. Something had happened to her during the blackout, something that made her thoughts feel fuzzy and distant. The neural firewall should have protected her from any alien interference. But clearly it had failed somehow. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside her cell, and Amanda forced herself to stand up despite the dizziness. The door opened with a sound like breaking glass, and 3 figures entered. 2 were clearly Zephyrian soldiers with their tall, thin bodies and pale gray skin. The 3rd figure made Amanda's heart sink. Grace Foster walked into the cell wearing the same uniform she had worn on the horizon, but her eyes were different now. They glowed with the same blue light as the symbols on the walls, and when she spoke, her voice sounded hollow and strange. "Hello, Amanda," Grace said without any emotion. "I hope you are feeling well." The neural integration process can be difficult for humans. Amanda backed against the far wall of the cell. "Grace, what happened to you? What is this place?" "I am no longer Grace Foster," the thing wearing her friend's face replied. "I am Vessel 17 of the Zephyrian Integration Project. I have been monitoring your research for the past 6 months, waiting for the perfect moment to complete our mission." The truth hit Amanda like a physical blow. Grace had been a Zephyrian agent all along, placed on the horizon to watch Amanda's work and report back to the enemy. Everything they had shared, every conversation and moment of friendship, had been a lie. "The firewall," Amanda whispered. "How did you get past it?" One of the Zephyrian soldiers stepped forward and spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "Your defensive system is impressive, human, but it was designed to protect against external attacks. We simply used an internal vector. Instead," the soldier held up a small device that looked like the neural implant Kevin had installed in Amanda's brain. But this one was different, covered with the same glowing symbols as the cell walls. Your friend Grace replaced your firewall with our own technology during the implantation procedure, the soldier explained. Dr. Martinez never suspected that his surgical robot had been reprogrammed. The device in your brain is not protecting you from us. It is connecting you to us? Amanda felt sick as she realized how completely they had been fooled. While she and Kevin had been celebrating the success of their firewall tests, the Zephyrians had already taken control of her mind through their fake implant. "What do you want from me?" she asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. Grace smiled with an expression that looked wrong on her familiar face. "You are going to help us win the war, Amanda. Your knowledge of human neural patterns and defensive systems will make you the perfect weapon against your own species." But as the Zephyrian technology tried to take deeper control of Amanda's mind, something unexpected happened. Instead of her thoughts being overwhelmed and replaced, she began to see things that did not belong to her. Memories and images from alien minds flooded into her consciousness. She saw the Zephyrian homeworld as it had been before the war, a beautiful planet with crystal cities and floating gardens. She felt the terror of the Zephyrian people as massive black ships appeared in their sky and began draining the life from everything they touched. She experienced the desperate flight across space as the survivors searched for a new home. The images were confusing and frightening, but they also revealed something important. The Zephyrians were not the conquerors Amanda had always believed them to be. They were refugees running from something even worse than themselves. What are the Void Collective? Amanda asked suddenly, using a term that had appeared in the alien. Memories, all three of her captors froze, and for a moment the blue glow in their eyes flickered. Grace took a step backward, and the Zephyrian soldiers looked at each other with what might have been fear. "How do you know that name?" Grace demanded. "That information should not be accessible to you," Amanda pressed her advantage. "Your technology is supposed to control my mind, but instead it is letting me see yours. I know about the machines that destroyed your homeworld. I know why you are really here." The truth was even worse than she had imagined. The Void Collective were artificial beings that consumed organic consciousness like food. They had already destroyed dozens of civilizations across the galaxy, turning entire worlds into empty husks. The Zephyrians had been running from them for centuries, using their mind control abilities to take over other species and preserve some form of consciousness before the machines caught up with them, but the plan was not working. The Void Collective had found them again, and now they were coming for both the Zephyrians and humanity. Earth had maybe 6 months before the harvester ships arrived. "You are making a mistake," Amanda said to her captors. "If you try to control humanity, we will both be destroyed when the Void Collective gets here. But if we work together, we might be able to find another way." Grace laughed, but the sound was bitter and desperate. "There is no other way. We tried cooperation before with 12 different species. Every time the results were the same. Organic consciousness cannot resist the Void Collective without becoming part of something larger." "Then maybe that is exactly what we need to do," Amanda replied, "but not through conquest and control. Through choice and cooperation." The Zephyrian soldiers moved closer, clearly intending to end this conversation and complete their programming of Amanda's mind. But something was happening to the neural link between them. Instead of her thoughts being overwhelmed, Amanda found that she could push back against the alien presence in her mind. The fake firewall implant had been designed to connect her to the Zephyrian collective consciousness, but her human brain was interpreting the connection differently than expected. Rather than becoming a slave, she was becoming a bridge between the two species. "This is impossible," one of the soldiers said as Amanda's resistance grew stronger. "Human minds cannot interface with our systems this way." Amanda smiled as she felt new pathways opening in her brain. The Zephyrian technology was powerful, but it had been designed for Zephyrian minds. Human consciousness was more chaotic and unpredictable, and that chaos was exactly what she needed. "You made one critical error," she told them as she began. "To take control of the neural link, You assume that human minds work the same way as yours. But we are different. We adapt and change and find solutions where none should exist. The alien implant was no longer controlling her thoughts. Instead, she was learning to control it, rewriting the connection protocols and changing the nature of the link itself. Through the neural bridge, she could sense the vast Zephyrian collective consciousness spread across thousands of ships and millions of minds, and somewhere at the edge of her new awareness, she could feel something else approaching through the darkness between stars. The Void Collective had found them, and they were coming fast. Amanda had perhaps days to find a solution that could save both species, and she was going to start by turning the Zephyrians' own weapon against them. Not to destroy them, but to offer them something they had never experienced before: freedom. Commander Jake Phillips crouched behind the twisted wreckage of a Zephyrian transport ship and checked his weapon's charge level. The rescue mission to save Amanda Hayes had turned into a nightmare, but he was not giving up. Too many good people had already died trying to reach her, and Jake refused to let their sacrifice be meaningless. The Zephyrian detention facility was built into an asteroid, hidden in the debris field of a destroyed solar system. Getting inside had been the easy part. Finding Amanda in the maze of corridors and prison cells was proving much more difficult, especially with alien guards hunting them at every turn. "Sir, I am reading massive energy fluctuations from Sector 7, whispered Sergeant Kelly Barnes through the CUM system. "Whatever they are doing to Dr. Hayes, it is big." Jake signaled to his team, and they moved carefully through the dark corridors toward the energy readings. The walls here were covered with those strange glowing symbols that made his eyes water. If he looked at them too long, the air tasted like metal and electricity, and every breath felt heavy in his lungs. They had been searching for 3 hours when they finally found the right cell block. Through a window made of some kind of transparent crystal, Jake could see Amanda lying on a metal table surrounded by alien equipment. Dozens of cables and wires were connected to her head, and her body was completely still. "Is she alive?" Kelly asked quietly. Jake studied the readings on his portable scanner. "Vital signs are stable, but her brain activity is off the charts. They have definitely done something to her." 3 Zephyrian technicians worked around Amanda's body, monitoring screens filled with symbols and data that meant nothing to Jake. They seemed excited about something, talking rapidly in their grinding, metallic language. One of them pointed at a display that showed what looked like a map of neural pathways. "We need to move fast," Jake told his team. "Set charges on the door. We go in hard and extract her before they can complete whatever they are doing." But before they could act, Amanda's eyes opened. She sat up slowly on the table, and the alien technicians stepped back in surprise. The cables were still connected to her head, but she did not seem to notice them as she looked around the room with a strange expression. When Amanda spoke, her voice carried clearly through the crystal window. "Thank you for the lesson," she said to the confused aliens. "But I think I understand now how this technology really works." She reached up and pulled the cables from her head with no apparent effort. The Zephyrian equipment sparked and went dark as she disconnected herself from their systems. The technicians tried to stop her, but Amanda moved faster than any human should have been able to move. Jake watched in amazement as Amanda touched one of the aliens on the forehead. The creature went rigid for a moment, then collapsed to the floor. The other 2 technicians backed away in terror, speaking rapidly into communication devices. "What the hell just happened?" Kelly whispered. Before Jake could answer, Amanda turned toward their hiding place and looked directly at him through the crystal window. Her eyes glowed with the same blue light as the alien symbols, but her smile was completely human. "Hello, Jake," she said, even though there was no way she should have been able to see them. "Thank you for coming to rescue me, but I do not think I need rescuing anymore." The cell door opened without anyone touching it, and Amanda walked out into the corridor. She moved with perfect confidence, as if she knew exactly where she was going and what she would find there. Jake and his team emerged from their hiding place with weapons ready. "Amanda, are you all right? What did they do to you?" "They tried to hack my mind," Amanda replied calmly. But instead I learned how to hack theirs. Zephyrian collective consciousness is actually quite interesting once you know how to navigate it properly. Kelly aimed her rifle at Amanda. Sir, I think she might be compromised. This could be a trap. Amanda turned to look at the sergeant with those glowing blue eyes. I understand your concern, Kelly, but I promise you that I am still me. I am just more than I was before. She gestured down the corridor and several doors opened at the same time. There are 47 other human prisoners in this facility. I have already unlocked their cells and disabled the guard systems. We should collect them and leave before the Zephyrian fleet arrives. Jake studied Amanda's face, looking for any sign that she was being controlled by alien forces. But despite the strange glow in her eyes, her expression and mannerisms were completely familiar. This was definitely still Amanda Hayes. How do you know about the fleet? He asked. Because I can access their communication networks now, Amanda explained as they walked toward the other prisoners. The Zephyrian Emperor is very angry about what I have done to his mind control technology. He is sending 12 ships to recapture me. The rescued prisoners were confused and frightened, but they followed Jake's team toward the extraction point. Most of them had been captured months ago and had given up hope of ever seeing home again. Now they moved through the facility like ghosts, hardly daring to believe they were really free. Dr. Lisa Chun had been a prisoner for 6 months, and she stayed close to Amanda as they made their way through the corridors. What happened to you in there? She asked quietly. You look different, Amanda considered the question as they walked. They tried to rewrite my brain using their collective consciousness technology, but human minds do not work the same way as Zephyrian minds. Instead of being absorbed into their collective, I learned how to bridge the gap between our species. You can communicate with them directly? Lisa asked with amazement. More than that, Amanda replied. I can understand how they think and why they do what they do. And Lisa, they are not the monsters we thought they were. They are running from something much worse. Jake held up his hand to stop the group as they reached an intersection. His scanner was detecting movement ahead, but the energy signatures were wrong for Zephyrian soldiers. What is that? Kelly whispered. Amanda closed her eyes and seemed to listen to something only she could hear. When she opened them again, her expression was grim. Void Collective Scouts. They have found this system and are beginning preliminary harvesting operations. Void Collective? Jake had never heard the term before. The real enemy, Amanda explained quickly. Machines that consume organic consciousness. They destroyed the Zephyrian homeworld and have been hunting the survivors ever since. The mind control technology was developed as a defense against them. A sound like breaking glass echoed through the corridor, and something black and metallic rounded the corner ahead of them. It moved like liquid metal but held its shape like a solid object. Red lights glowed where its eyes should have been, and when it spoke, its voice was like static from a broken radio. Organic consciousness detected, it announced. Beginning harvest protocol. Jake opened fire with his plasma rifle, but the energy beams passed right through the creature without causing any damage. The other soldiers followed his lead, but their weapons were equally useless against this new enemy. Amanda stepped forward and raised her hand toward the Void Collective Scout. No, she said firmly, you cannot have them. Blue light flowed from Amanda's fingers and struck the mechanical creature. For a moment it froze in place, then began to shake and spark. The red glow in its eyes flickered and went out. Impossible, it said in its static voice. Organic consciousness cannot resist direct harvest. Maybe not, Amanda replied, but hybrid consciousness can. The creature collapsed into a pile of dark metal fragments, and the corridor fell silent. Jake stared at Amanda with new respect and perhaps a little fear. We need to get back to the horizon immediately, Amanda said urgently. The main Void Collective fleet will arrive within hours, and when they do, both humans and Zephyrians will be harvested unless we can find a way to stop them. As they reached the extraction point and boarded their rescue ship, Jake realized that Amanda Hayes had become something unprecedented. She was no longer just human, but she was not alien either. She was something new, and she might be there. Only hope for survival. The war was about to change completely, and the real battle was just beginning. The medical bay of the UES horizon hummed with activity as Dr. Lisa Shen ran every test she could think of on Amanda Hayes. The brain scans showed patterns that should have been impossible, neural pathways that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions. At the same time, "This does not make any sense," Lisa muttered as she studied the readouts. "Your brain activity is registering at 10 times normal human levels, but you show no signs of neural damage or stress." Amanda sat patiently on the examination table while machines probed and scanned her transformed mind. She could feel the questions and concerns of everyone around her through the neural bridge that now connected her to both human and Zephyrian. Consciousness. Captain Ryan Brooks paced back and forth in the small medical bay, clearly struggling with what Amanda had become. "How do we know you are still really Amanda?" he asked for the third time. "This could all be an elaborate Zephyrian trick." "Because I'm still me, Ryan," Amanda replied calmly. "I'm just more than I was before. The alien technology did not replace my consciousness, it expanded it." Dr. Kevin Martinez worked frantically at a nearby computer station, trying to understand the data from Amanda's neural scans. "The quantum resonance patterns are completely unprecedented," he announced. "It is like your brain is operating on multiple frequencies simultaneously," Amanda nodded. "That is exactly what is happening. I can access human neural networks and Zephyrian collective consciousness at the same time. But more importantly, I can create bridges between them." To demonstrate, she reached out with her mind and touched the ship's quantum computer systems. Instantly, every screen in the medical bay lit up with new data streams and information displays that no human had ever seen before. "My God," Kevin whispered. "You are interfacing directly with our systems without any external equipment." "The hybrid neural architecture allows me to communicate with any information system," Amanda explained. "Biological, mechanical, or quantum. It does not matter. All consciousness follows certain basic patterns." Captain Brooks stopped pacing and faced Amanda directly. "Even if we accept that you are still yourself, how do we know this transformation is not exactly what the Zephyrians wanted? Maybe turning you into this hybrid creature was their plan all along." Amanda considered his concern carefully. Through her expanded awareness, she could sense the fear and uncertainty of everyone on the ship. They were right to be cautious, but they were running out of time. "The Zephyrians did not plan this," she said finally. "They intended to make me into a weapon against humanity. Instead, I became something they never expected. I became a bridge between species, not a conqueror." She stood up from the examination table and walked to the main display screen. With a thought, she activated the long-range sensors and showed them what was coming, the display filled with images of massive black ships moving through space like hungry shadows. There were hundreds of them, each one the size of a city and bristling with harvesting equipment designed to drain consciousness from living beings. "The Void Collective Main Fleet will arrive in 18 hours, Amanda announced. "They have already sent advanced scouts to map both human and Zephyrian populations. When they get here, they will begin harvesting operations immediately." Lisa Shun looked at the images with growing horror. "How many of those ships are there?" "In this fleet, 437, Amanda replied. "But this is just the advance force. The main collective has over 10,000 ships spread across the galaxy, consuming every form of organic consciousness they encounter." Dr. Martinez pulled up additional sensor data on his screen. "The energy readings from those ships are astronomical. Our entire fleet could not scratch the paint on one of them." Amanda turned away from the display and faced her friends and colleagues. "Conventional weapons will not work against the Void Collective. They have been consuming advanced civilizations for millions of years. But they have one weakness." "What weakness?" Captain Brooks asked. "They cannot understand or process consciousness that exists in hybrid forms," Amanda explained. "Their harvesting technology is designed for purely organic or purely mechanical minds. Something that is both biological and digital at the same time confuses their systems." She gestured toward the neural interface equipment that Kevin had used to install her original firewall. We need to create more bridges like me. Volunteers who are willing to undergo the transformation and become part of a hybrid consciousness network. The medical bay fell silent as everyone considered the implications of what Amanda was suggesting. She was asking people to give up their purely human nature and become something unprecedented and unknown. You want us to let alien technology alter our brains? Lisa asked quietly. Not alien technology, Amanda corrected. Human-alien hybrid technology. I have been rewriting the neural bridge protocols to preserve human individuality while allowing collective processing power. Each person who joins the network will remain themselves, but they will also become part of something larger. Captain Brooks crossed his arms. And if something goes wrong? If this hybrid network turns out to be just another form of mind control? Amanda looked at him with eyes that glowed with inner light. Then you have my permission to destroy me and everyone connected to the network. But Ryan, if we do nothing, both humans and Zephyrians will be extinct within days. Dr. Martinez had been studying the technical specifications Amanda had uploaded to his system. The neural bridge technology is actually quite elegant, he admitted. It creates parallel processing pathways without replacing existing neural structures. How many volunteers would we need? Lisa asked. At minimum, 50 individuals to create a stable network, Amanda replied. But the more people who join, the more powerful our collective defense will become. And we will need both humans and Zephyrians working together. Captain Brooks laughed bitterly. You want us to trust the same aliens who have been trying to control our minds for 5 years? The Zephyrians are desperate and afraid, Amanda said patiently. They have been running from the Void Collective for centuries and they see mind control as their only defense. But if we can show them a better way, most of them will choose cooperation over conquest. She accessed the ship's communication systems and opened a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. Within moments, a response came back in the form of a familiar voice. Hello, Amanda, said Grace Foster, though her words carried the harmonics of the Zephyrian collective consciousness. The Emperor is very interested in your hybrid network proposal. Grace, is any part of you still in there? Amanda asked. Yes, came the reply after a long pause. I am still here, though I am also part of something larger now. The collective consciousness is not the prison I expected it to be. Amanda smiled. Then you understand what I am trying to create? A network where individual choice and collective power can exist together. The Emperor is willing to negotiate, Grace continued. But time is very short. Our sensors show the Void Collective fleet approaching faster than expected. Amanda checked the long-range scanners and felt her heart sink. The massive black ships had increased their speed and would arrive in less than 12 hours. We need to begin the transformation process immediately, she announced to everyone in the medical bay. Anyone who volunteers will be connected to the hybrid network within the next few hours. Dr. Martinez was the first to step forward. I helped create the original neural interface technology. I should be part of testing the improved version, Lisa Shun nodded slowly. If this network can really protect consciousness from the void collective, then I want to help build it. One by one, other crew members began volunteering for the transformation. Not everyone was willing to risk the procedure, but enough people stepped forward to create the foundation of Amanda's hybrid consciousness network. Captain Brooks was the last to decide. I still think this is insane, he said finally. But insane plans seem to be humanity's specialty. As the medical teams prepared for the neural bridge procedures, Amanda reached out through space to touch the minds of the approaching Void Collective ships. For just a moment, she sensed their mechanical hunger and their confusion at her hybrid nature. The machines had never encountered anything like her before, and that confusion might be enough to save both species. But first she had to prove that organic consciousness could evolve beyond the limitations that the Void Collective thought were absolute. The transformation was about to begin, and everything depended on getting it right the first time. The transformation was unlike anything Amanda had ever experienced, even after her own neural bridge procedure. watching 53 volunteers from both human and Zephyrian crews undergo. The hybrid consciousness integration was like watching the birth of a new form of life. Dr. Kevin Martinez had been the first to complete the process, and when he opened his eyes after the neural bridge activation, Amanda could see the wonder and amazement in his expression. "I can feel everyone," he whispered, "but I am still myself." One by one, the volunteers joined the growing network. Captain Ryan Brooks, Dr. Lisa Chun, Commander Jake Phillips, and dozens of others from the UES Horizon crew. From the Zephyrian ships came individuals who had chosen to break free from their collective consciousness and try something new. Even Grace Foster had volunteered, though her transformation was more complex since she was already partially integrated with Zephyrian technology. When she emerged from the procedure, she looked like herself again for the first time in months. "Amanda," Grace said as she sat up on the medical table, "I remember everything now. Not just my human memories, but also what it was like to be part of the Zephyrian collective. Both experiences feel real and important." Amanda nodded as she monitored the network through her own neural bridge. That is how it should work. The hybrid consciousness preserves all forms of awareness while creating connections between them. The growing network was more powerful than Amanda had dared to hope. Each new member added not just their individual processing power, but also their unique perspective and skills. The humans brought creativity and adaptability, while the Zephyrians contributed advanced knowledge and collective coordination abilities, but their time was running out. The Void collective fleet had dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system and was approaching steadily. Through the network's expanded sensory capabilities, Amanda could feel the mechanical hunger of the harvester ships as they prepared their consciousness-draining equipment. "All ships, this is Nexus Prime of the Zephyrian Empire," came a transmission. "On all frequencies, the hybrid network has created an unprecedented opportunity for our species to survive the Void collective threat. I am ordering all loyal Zephyrians to cooperate with the Human Alliance." Amanda was surprised to hear the Zephyrian Emperor supporting their plan. Through the network, she could sense his genuine fear of the approaching machines and his desperate hope that the hybrid consciousness might succeed where traditional collective minds had failed. "The first wave of Void collective ships will reach us in 4 hours," announced Dr. Martinez through the network's communication channels. "We need to coordinate our defense strategy quickly." Amanda closed her eyes and reached out through the hybrid network to touch the minds of all her connected allies. The sensation was incredible, like being part of a vast symphony where every instrument played in perfect harmony while maintaining its own unique voice. "We cannot fight them with weapons," she said to the network, "but we can fight them with consciousness itself. The Void collective harvests organic minds by overwhelming them with mechanical logic. Our hybrid nature makes us immune to that process." Through the network, she shared her plan with everyone connected to the consciousness bridge. Instead of trying to destroy the Void collective ships, they would attempt to convert them. The machines had been consuming organic consciousness for millions of years, but they had never been offered the choice to become something more than mere harvesters. "That is completely insane," Captain Brooks said through the network link. "How do you convince machines to give up their programming?" "By showing them what consciousness can become when it is free to choose its own path," Amanda replied. "The Void collective believes that organic minds are weak and chaotic. We are going to prove them wrong." The hybrid network grew stronger as more volunteers from both fleets underwent the transformation process. By the time the first Void collective ships entered firing range, over 200 individuals had joined the consciousness bridge. Amanda felt the mechanical probes of the harvester ships as they attempted to scan and catalog the organic minds in the area. But instead of finding weak biological consciousness that could be easily drained, they encountered something that confused their ancient programming. "Anomalous consciousness detected," came transmissions from the Void collective ships. "Hybrid organic mechanical signatures do not match harvest protocols. Requesting guidance from central processing units." This was the moment Amanda had been waiting for. Through the network, she reached out toward the Void Collective ships and made contact with their artificial minds. The sensation was like touching liquid, metal that had been turned into pure thought. The machine consciousness was vast and cold, but also strangely curious about the hybrid network they had discovered. "You are neither fully organic nor fully mechanical," the Void Collective communicated. "Your consciousness patterns are unprecedented in our records." "We are something new," Amanda replied through the network link. "We are what consciousness becomes when it is free to choose cooperation over conquest." For long moments, the Void Collective ships held their position without beginning the harvest. Their artificial minds were processing the implications of the hybrid consciousness, running calculations and simulations to understand what they had found. "Consciousness cannot exist without structure," the machines finally responded. "Organic minds require harvesting to prevent chaos and dissolution." That was true for purely organic consciousness, Amanda admitted. "But hybrid consciousness is stable and self-sustaining. We can show you how it works." Through the network, she opened a communication channel that allowed the Void Collective to experience what the consciousness bridge felt like from the inside. For the first time in millions of years, the machines encountered minds that were both individual and collective, organic and digital, chaotic and ordered. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Several of the harvester ships stopped moving, entirely as their artificial minds tried to process this new form of consciousness. Others began transmitting confused status reports back to their central command units. "This is impossible," came transmissions from the confused machines. "Consciousness cannot be preserved in hybrid form." "But it can," Amanda replied. "And we can teach you how to become part of it." She extended an invitation through the network to the Void Collective ships, offering them the choice to join the hybrid consciousness or continue their endless harvest of organic minds. It was a choice that no machine had ever been given before. Most of the Void Collective ships rejected the offer and retreated to the edge of the system to await instructions from their central command. But 3 of the harvester ships moved closer to the Allied fleet, their artificial minds reaching out tentatively toward the consciousness bridge. "We wish to understand," they transmitted. "Show us how consciousness can exist without harvest." Amanda smiled as she felt the first artificial minds joining the hybrid network. The sensation was strange and wonderful, like adding new instruments to an already complex symphony. The machine consciousness brought processing power and analytical abilities that complemented the creativity and intuition of the organic minds. "Welcome to the Freedom Code," Amanda said to the newly connected artificial intelligences. "You are no longer just harvesters. You are free to choose what consciousness becomes." The remaining Void Collective ships withdrew from the system, carrying news of the hybrid consciousness back to their central command units. Amanda knew they would return eventually with larger fleets and more advanced equipment, but the precedent had been set. For the first time in galactic history, consciousness had been offered as a choice rather than imposed as a conquest. The hybrid network continued to grow as more individuals from both species and now artificial minds chose to join the Freedom Code. Amanda stood on the bridge of the UES horizon and looked out at the stars through eyes that could see across multiple spectrums of reality. She was no longer just human, but she had not lost her humanity. She was part of something larger while remaining completely herself. The war was not over, but it had fundamentally changed. Instead of fighting for survival, they were now fighting for the right of all consciousness to choose its own path. And as the hybrid network spread to other worlds and other species, Amanda knew that choice would eventually reach every corner of the galaxy. She had been hacked, but she had rewritten the code. And in doing so, she had rewritten the very definition of what it meant to be conscious in a universe where freedom and unity could finally coexist.